Okay, now we are now in Unit 3 of this slide set and educational technology. Let's go over some of the influences that have been occurring utilizing technology for educational purposes. So there's been an emergence, certainly with the cell phone coming out and iPods out of Apple, iTunes University. Many schools started delivering free um, education through the technology. They were able to live stream lectures, record lectures, and it became very popular a few years back, which were the seedlings for such places as the Khan Academy or Coursera, delivering free education. And this threw a challenge, of course, to many institutions fearful that um, public and private colleges and universities would go bankrupt. However, what it did do is push the envelope for accessibility and really start questioning people's ability to learn on their own or what was the role of the teacher. So these are important things to observe in our world of education. We had Second Life invented, which was a complete virtual reality environment, and Harvard and large institutions bought space in this virtual world in order to be able to develop almost like a game setting to do lectures and interactive education. We certainly are familiar with TED Talks, which was capturing some of the experts around the world, delivering very informative and engaging presentations that would trump the most mundane of our incredibly intelligent teachers who are not great presenters. So this began to set a standard for what it looks like to deliver a lecture. We also have the implementation of gamification, to where we have this interactive, engaged learning online that instead of reading materials or even just watching a video, we're developing gaming tools to have students interact with the information and progress. We have children who have been raised with multimedia as a way of playing, thinking, and engaging. And so this demand for much more visual and kinesthetic engagement has really shifted the students of today. And then the demand on the teachers in terms of preparing class and delivering information. So just a quick review, if we look at the communication tools we looked in Unit 2, boomers traditionally are comfortable with, they're still reading magazines and newspapers, certainly they're online, but they will prefer the face-to-face connection. So as a boomer teacher, we're going to have a preference for face-to-face engagement, potentially. Gen X, of course, has instigated the virtual world with online internet access and telecommuting even. So comfort with websites and using the internet as a resource gatherer and research engine. And then Gen Y certainly has been engaged with collaborative spaces online. So the assumption that a lot can be done easily by virtual communication and collaborative spaces. Google Hangout for the digital, Gen Z, Snapchat, Skype, these are all uh, very easy to access tools that have become second nature. And so while boomers know how to use a landline and probably a dial up, Gen Z is going to use Google Hangout with as much ease. So here's technology we use every day that has become normalized in our lives. And so, how are these utilized or incorporated in your educational approaches? Here is technology we can use in the classroom that's already being used in the classroom. And again, what are your limitations in terms of access and resources? Because when we implement technology, digital technology, it does have a cost. And when I think of a pencil and a piece of paper or a pen and a paper, the cost for that tool is much less than a laptop in every child's hands. So we should be looking at and experimenting with the virtual classroom, virtual worlds, utilizing the cell phone as a tool, a learning device. If the assessment, responsive assessment and testing, solar power is another interesting influence these days. And then certainly voice recognition. If we consider how technology has made education more accessible for students with disabilities, whether there's eyesight limitations or hearing limitations. We've had an incredible revolution where technology has assisted learners who otherwise would not have access. So tech use for collaboration, here's just a few examples to consider. Google Hangouts has become a very popular tool and something that is easy to access, and there's some issues in terms of FERPA and public access, so those were things that you might want to consider and something I would encourage you to explore if you have not already. We also have Project Share, which is another resource, and again, this is just a sampling of the kinds of things that are out there that you might want to take advantage of. Multimedia, there's courses, Web 2.0 tools, which is this collaborative, customizable resources. And then some instructors will be overwhelmed with learning new technology, while others will jump right on it because they see this is a great tool to achieve their goals. Virtual reality, we're still seeing how is this coming to play in the classroom or as a resource. Some interesting studies and examples of teachers using virtual reality as a tool. Certainly it creates engagement with students, and younger students who are more familiar and comfortable with a digital reality, video gaming, and being immersed inside an imaginary world or a synthesized world that is giving you access to things you might not otherwise be able to see. For example, museums that you're not going to be able to travel to, or underwater environments. So lots of resources. Here's a few names of some that I would encourage you to explore for online educators. And there's another tool you might want to think about if you're resisting bringing technology into the classroom or you're concerned that students don't know how to navigate the internet. There's a role called Google Jockey where the student volunteers and you have two projectors. And if you're providing information using, let's say, PowerPoint, the Google Jockey is online researching and verifying information that's being presented in your lecture. And what's really useful about this is as they discover information, you can also point out what is false or how they can get a better understanding of how to interpret the kinds of information they're getting on the internet, whether it's false information or how to verify the validity of it. Smart strategies for navigating technology. Be open-minded, definitely experiment, inquire, talk to early adopters, talk to your students, get them involved, and make sure you adopt post-beta so you don't get ensnarled in the bugs of new systems. Get your students involved in helping. Become curious. And that would be a great way to learn yourself, because I think all teachers are learners. And the day we stop learning, I think we should eliminate ourselves from teaching. And while certainly the technology trends that are happening so quickly can be daunting, overwhelming, and also we may have limited resources to be able to utilize them, but it's really important to understand at least how they're impacting your students. So I look forward to your discussions online. This week has the potential to be a very interesting and dynamic week, so I hope you can join us early. Go on the discussion and then we'll see.